We're always told that our IQ is pretty much set in stone, right? That you get what you get. But what if that's just not true? Today, we're going to dive into some habits, backed by psychology, that can actually help you build a smarter brain.
So right off the bat, let's just throw that old idea out the window. Psychology actually strongly disagrees, with this whole fixed IQ thing. The research is pretty clear. Our intelligence can change. But here's the kicker. It's not about cramming more facts into your head. No, it's about something way deeper than that.
And this, right here, is the secret. It's not what you know, it's how you think. We're talking about completely rewiring the very process of your thinking, how you make decisions, how you solve problems, from the ground up. So the big question is, how do we actually do that?
Okay, so we're going to start by mastering our own internal world. This first bunch of habits, it's all about training your brain's gut reactions. This is the foundation for everything else, for that smarter, more deliberate way of thinking.
So, what's the simplest, most powerful habit of them all? It's just the pause. That's it. Think about it. People with higher IQs, they don't just react instantly to everything. They take a beat, just a few seconds before they speak, before they text, before they act. And that tiny little gap, that's where intelligence really has a chance to grow.
And there's some really cool science behind this. That little pause, it actually activates what psychologists call cognitive control. You can think of it like the CEO of your brain stepping in and saying, "Hold on a second." It lets the rational thinking part of your brain take charge instead of those knee-jerk emotional impulses.
I mean, look at the difference here. When you just react instantly, your brain is stuck in this emotional, kind of survival mode. But when you pause, you literally shift gears into a logical reasoning mode. And if you do this over and over, this one simple habit can dramatically improve your judgment and self-control, which are, huge parts of what we call intelligence.
Okay, another really powerful internal habit is something called metacognition. Now, I know that sounds like a big, complicated word, but it's actually super simple. It's just the habit of thinking about your own thinking. It's like taking a step back and asking yourself, wait, why am I thinking this way? And let me tell you, that is an absolute game changer for catching your own biases.
And look, there are other ways you can build up this internal strength too, like get in the habit of asking yourself, what if I'm wrong about this? That keeps you flexible. Or try delaying a small pleasure on purpose. That really strengthens your brain's planning muscles. Instead of cringing at your mistakes, review them calmly. And try to use more neutral language. So instead of, this is a total disaster, you think, okay, this is a problem we can solve.
All right, so once we've started to get a handle on our internal reactions, the next question is, how do we engage with the outside world more intelligently? Well, that brings us right to part 2, learning how to learn.
And really, it boils down to a pretty straightforward 3-step process. First up, read stuff that feels difficult, that really stretches you. Because if it's too easy, your brain's just coasting, it's not growing. Second, pick one hard skill and go deep on it. Don't just dabble in a dozen things. And third, make it a habit to explain those complex ideas you're learning, but in really simple words.
Now, that second step, learning one hard skill, is absolutely crucial. Why? Because it triggers something called neuroplasticity. That feeling of confusion, that struggle, that's not you failing. That's the feeling of your brain literally rewiring itself, building new and stronger connections. So when it feels hard, that's the signal that real growth is actually happening.
And that leads us perfectly into that third step. This quote just says it all. If you can't explain something simply, you probably don't understand it well enough yourself. Forcing yourself to do this is like the ultimate test. It instantly shows you where the gaps in your own knowledge are. See, smart people don't use big, fancy words to sound smart. They use simple words to create clarity. And really, this gets to the absolute heart of it all. Learning isn't just about collecting a bunch of facts. Truly high-level thinking is constantly asking one simple question: why? When you start asking why, you stop just memorizing random bits of information. Instead, you start to see the whole system, how all the pieces connect, and you get way better at predicting what might happen next.
Okay, so we've talked about training our reactions and learning how to learn. The final piece of the puzzle is actually applying that intelligence. This next part is all about the habits that help you zoom out and see the bigger picture. This right here, this is a huge one. It's called cognitive flexibility, and it's basically the willingness to be wrong. It's about seeing your opinions not as a part of who you are, but as tools. And if a better tool comes along, new evidence, you're happy to switch it out. And this table just lays it out so clearly. You have the rigid mind, where opinions are your identity, and your main goal is to defend them no matter what. The result? You stay stuck. But then you have the flexible mind. Opinions are just tools to find the truth. And because of that, you learn so much faster. Remember, being able to say, you know what, I was wrong about that. That's a superpower. It's a sign of strength, not weakness.
So how do you actually practice this bigger picture thinking? Here are 3 quick habits. First, always try to think about the long-term consequences, not just how you feel in the moment. Second, when you look at other people, try to understand their motivations instead of just jumping to judgment. And third, turn that same curiosity on yourself. Start noticing the patterns in your own behavior.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, right? From our internal reactions to how we learn from the world around us. But if there's just one single thing you remember from all of this, I want it to be this. IQ isn't some gift you're just born with. It's not a lottery ticket. Think of it like a muscle. It's a skill that you build day by day through the quiet, consistent practice of better thinking habits. It's something you earn, not something you're just given.
And this line really just says it all, doesn't it? You don't need to have been born smarter, you just need to think better and do it consistently. The goal isn't some magical overnight transformation. It's about adopting the small habits that help you think a little better, a little more clearly, day in and day out.
So, I'll leave you with this to think about. Take a hard look at your daily habits. Which ones are maybe making your thinking a little more shallow, and which ones are actively training your brain for growth? Because ultimately, the power to change your intelligence, it's right there, in those small, everyday choices.